New this week from Dark Horse Comics, Helen of Wyndhorn #1, written by Tom King, art by Bilquis Everly. The now legendary team behind Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which if you haven't read, you should go read that right now. I mean, why aren't you reading that right now? It's one of the best comics of the last decade. I cried so much reading it. Read it. Read it. Tom King and Bilquis Everly have returned with a whimsical, storybook, fantasy-tinged world reminiscent of The Never-Ending Story, or The Black Cauldron, or even Wizard of Oz. Tom King pens this narrative with a tried-and-true, deliberate literary pace, with specific, fanciful, psychedelic imagery from Bilquis Everly, who I'm convinced could make anything look beautiful. If you're a fan of classic serial fiction, like anything from Agatha Christie or C.S. Lewis, then this comic will definitely tickle your sensibilities. I'm so sorry, that sounds like a euphemism. Also, if you have read the aforementioned Supergirl and you were a fan of the narrative structure and the slow build, then I think you will definitely find yourself hooked by this first offering of Helen of Wyndhorn. It's cinematic, it's gothic, it's unconventional. It's a Tom King story. You can't go wrong. Alright, let's jump into issue #1 now with some spoilers. Issue #1 opens with an interview of an elderly woman recounting her days as the governess of the fabled Wyndhorn estate. We then cut to the past, to the beginning of the 20th century, as the governess makes her trek to rural Texas in order to claim the ward of famous author C.K. Cole. As the narrative unfolds, we get the sense that Cole was maybe like a Hemingway type, a real eccentric, adventurous man's man who probably shouldn't have been in charge of children at any point. Because the governess finds Helen, his 16-year-old daughter, in a drunk tank, having been arrested for being drunk and disorderly. After indulging some of Helen's raucous behavior, the governess is able to convince Helen to return to the Wyndhorn estate, which she has inherited from her now-deceased father. The establishing shot of the estate alone is enough to warrant reading. It's stunning. After being given a tour of the mansion from the mysterious, solitary butler, we see the depths of Helen's addiction and emotional abandon as she finds herself content to wander in a drunken stupor and avoid all education possible. It's a little unclear if the impetus of this behavior is her mourning her father, or if she is just truly ungovernable, but the scant details about the family's history and about Helen herself lead me to believe that there's more to be revealed. I've learned with Tom King stories that you kind of just have to buckle yourself in and allow the ride to happen. But just as King lulls us into a false sense of security with a fairly traditional period piece drama, we veer in a totally new direction as Helen ventures forth into the night having awoken from a nightmare, only to be pursued back into the mansion by some hellish beast, which is corroborated by the appearance of the governess. And it is at this precise moment of imminent peril that Helen's absent grandfather decides to make his reappearance. Looking like a cross between Sean Connery from Zardoz and Arnold Schwarzenegger from Conan the Barbarian. If you don't know what Zardoz is, you should look it up, trust me. This mysterious heroic figure wields a large broadsword and decapitates the beast with apparent ease. It is a shocking final image that succinctly speaks to the essence of what this story is going to become, and definitely left me excited for the future of this unfolding tale. First of all, I need to highlight how many great covers there are for issue #1. And look at this first page. I mean, talk about otherworldly beauty. I really enjoy when Tom King takes time to create stories within a story. And I also like that his apparent new favorite protagonist is a woman who drinks a lot. Cannot wait for the lore drop about this. I mean, what am I looking at? Remember to support your local comic book store. Grab Helen of Wyndhorn, issue #1, out now. I'd love to know in the comments what your favorite gothic tale is.